Hi there, I'm Ian Hambleton. I'm one of the founders of Biodiversity Units UK, and today I'm going to be answering some frequently asked questions from our Habitat Banks as part of our Habitat Bank Onboarding Series. The purpose really is for me to sort of answer some questions that we regularly get asked. We're also going to create a transcript of this so that you can also look at these in text format as well, but sometimes it's quite nice to hear a friendly face or see a friendly face and hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were. So I'm going to dive right into it. I'm answering a lot of these questions slightly on the hoof, so I'm going to blitz through these. If I'm looking over to the right, that's where the questions are. But also just remember that this is a really useful short guide to how we work with Habitat Banks. But actually, if there's anything you're still not certain about, you can look down further in this blog and see a link where you can book in a call and talk to one of our specialists. Okay, so jumping straight into it, these are in no particular order, but here's a commonly asked question that comes up, which is, how do we get paid? And when, as a Habitat Bank, would you need to pay us? So the way we work is we're a commission-only business. So we get a referral fee from you as and when we complete a deal. And we only get paid when you've been paid. And the benefit to you is you're paying no overhead for working with us ongoing. That's a risk for us as a business. And we only really get paid when you've had money come in. And also, we only get paid on money you know is certain and yours. So, for example, if you're issuing a deposit and it's a refundable deposit, then we wouldn't take a commission on that. We only get money when it's appeared and been paid in your bank account, and that referral fee comes to us at that point. Question 2, do you charge the client, and by the client I mean the developer, anything on top? So we sort of sit in the middle between developers and Habitat Banks. We get paid a referral fee by the Habitat Banks, which is what we call BNG Core. And then sometimes we get paid a BNG certainty fee by the developer. This is an optional choice for the developer to choose, but basically involved in that we'll do things like we'll complete their BGP plan, we'll work with the LPA, we'll do some additional work and services and advisory work for them on top of just finding a Habitat Bank and supplier to work with. But there's an option for them to choose for that service. We find a lot do, to be honest, but in the main it's a mixture of our referral fee and our BNG certainty fee that make up our fees. So this one comes up quite a lot actually. What happens if we have a lead, or as in Biodiversity Units have a lead for you as the Habitat Bank, and you're already working with it? So this is actually covered within our referral agreement, but it's worth us just explaining it a bit more, because it's obviously something people feel a bit nervous about. They don't want to have sort of be paying us for a lead that's already come to them direct already. So effectively the way we work is we will do all of our advertising, marketing and lead generation to create a lead. We'll then vet an inquiry and we'll get certain key information from the developer: a dephrometric, ecology reports, dates for planning, dates for commencement, postcode and that sort of thing, and just to find out more about that developer and their needs. And then basically what we'll do is we'll send all that information to you. At that point you get to look at your own records, have a look on the system and see whether you've ever been contacted about that project before, and given all that information. And then what often happens is you can come back to us. We ask you to come back to us within 3 days at a maximum, but ideally you come back straight away so we can get started quickly. And you can tell us, look, no, we're not working with this, we've never heard about this project, and we're happy for you to proceed. And at that point we're basically then given the right to work on the project. Obviously the market's very new, and sometimes developers are sending out quote requests to various places, and also there are associated parties like architects or planning consultants or ecologists that can be acting on developers' behalves. So sometimes we can find that there are occasions where you'll have been contacted, we'll have been contacted as well. And really, that's just a decision then for you to decide whether you feel like you want to proceed on your own or you want us to represent you. But ultimately, that's for you to choose. That's you to come back to us. If we're not able to represent you, then obviously we'll be representing other people. We would prefer to have you in the mix of people we're representing, and we hope over time you'll think biodiversity units do such a good job that we want them always representing us. So I hope that clarifies that one, but yeah, it's one that comes up quite often. How do we onboard our inventory to your network? So the way it works, once we've got you all signed up and had you sign our sort of DocuSign type legal document for a referral agreement, you'll be tasked with our operations manager. She'll contact you to get you onboarded to our digital inventory system. Effectively, all that's doing is basically taking what units you have from the various sites you have. You might have one site, you might have numerous sites, and we're filling in all the details about the units you have, what types of habitat units, B&G habitat units you've got, what your costs that you'd like to put for those units are, how many you have. Perhaps you've got certain discounting that you'll do for adjoining or all England units with the spatial risk multiplier. But essentially, you get to choose your costs and pricing, and we just need that to know what your inventory is, so that when we can run it through the system and we've got a requirement in, we can quickly quote, or we can quickly tell if you're an appropriate person, appropriate habitat bank to use on a particular job. It's all very easy and seamless. We've recently digitized the system so that basically you can go on there and basically update that dashboard at any point. You can change your prices at any point, and from that point those quotes are then changed to the new prices. Those prices are only used as provisional, and then later on we get you to confirm the bid before it's confirmed with the client. So that's a good way to operate, to get things out quickly, but also make sure that you're happy with things. So yeah, that's how the digital inventory system works. We'll give you a little tutorial into that when you've onboarded with us. What is matched pricing? So we have 4 key positioning values at biodiversity units. We have a strapline, which is the best price B&G with guaranteed results. And that really comes down to sort of 4 positioning statements that come up as part of that. There is match pricing, there is biggest supply, which is basically that we have the largest B&G supplier network out there. It is impartial advice, so we're there to really make sure that for the client they know all their options, they can see what they're doing, and we can choose the right partner for them that's going to match their needs. And finally, process know-how. So obviously, we were one of the first people into the B&G market. We know it in and out. We deal with hundreds of LPA discussions and negotiations, and sort of we offer that service as one of those things. But the first thing I mentioned is match pricing. So the way match pricing works is that we ask you to have the same RRP, or price that you put on the website, or price that you sell your units at, as we do. And the reason for that is we don't really want any confusion between, developers getting different prices from different places. We hope that by having a low margin referral fee, you can pay us out of that RRP, and it just means that everything is the same. It also gives us a great thing to be able to say to developers, that they can come to us, we can give them all the options, they can see all those prices all in one, and we can take the pain away from them. And we think it just means more volume for you, quicker results, and it's simpler for everyone. Next question. When can we sign up, or when we sign up, do we have to wait till we're on the gain site register? It's a really good question, actually. So we're happy to talk to you in the early days of your Habitat Bank creation, and we're keen to sort of skill you up, which is part of this onboarding series, to make sure that you can get selling units as quick as you can. Obviously, with most of the unit deals we're doing, they're with developers who are on the register. However, with some projects, you've got quite long lead times, and it is worth us marketing those units for you ahead of time. So we would probably recommend that we only start marketing and selling those units once you're through your conservation covenant or have got your section 106. And then we would basically be keen to market those, advising clients that they're not yet on the register, but they will be in this sort of time frame. And it's pretty well known now how long it takes to get from conservation covenant or S106 onto the gain site register. So that's generally what we would do. Much before that feels too much risk for us, and also we just don't want to let developers down. You know, it's really important that we're delivering B&G certainty for them. So yeah, we can market them before they're on the register, somewhat before, but not pre S106 or conservation covenant. Can we use our own legal agreements for sales is another great question, and the answer is simply yes. So once we've done all our work and connected you with the client, you will be using your legal agreements. If you are a new Habitat Bank and haven't got them, we've got some example documents that we can share for you to use, but ultimately you'll be signing your contract with that developer and confirming that unit deal and transacting direct. We actually always stay involved in that process. We're not keen to just sort of like throw you the lead and then forget about it. Part of our job is to get that deal over the line and converted, and as you know, we only get paid when it goes through, so that's the reason we're doing that. How do we set prices, or rather how we collectively, I think, is probably a better way of explaining that. So we ultimately, it's your decision what your prices are. Like, we can only give you some advice. One of the things we do at Biodiversity Units, we're well known for doing the B&G pricing report, so we have a lot of intel about what other habitat banks are charging and the market prices, etc. So what would normally happen is you'll come to us with your prices, we'll onboard you onto the digital system, you'll decide how much, you'll tell us what prices you want to put in there. One of our consultants will do a review of all those costs and probably a bit of a sense check of them, and then perhaps we'll reach out to you if we think there's anything particularly awry, or we wanted to talk to you about something and that's why you wanted to do a certain thing. In the main, we're seeing this sort of stabilisation of pricing within B&G. There's possibly a bit more of negotiation on the discounting for the spatial risk multiplier, but basically, we will work with you. You get to set the prices. We'll just give you advice, and those prices can fluctuate and change over time as you sell more or you decide you want to push certain things. So it's all quite fluid, but you're in control. Next question is, what's the usual process of selling our units to a client? So it's probably worth me sort of reading straight back and quickly running it through our process for selling. So assuming we've had all the requirements from a developer, dephrometric, postcode, date, key dates, etc., and we'll have been doing a vetting call. We'll have spoken to that client. We'll know they're serious. We'll know it's a real lead. We will then look on the system and work out who are going to be the best options for that project, based on probably mostly location, unit types being the right ones, obviously, Pricing comes into it somewhat, but we'll come up with 3 or 4 options of people to approach within our roster, and we'll go out to you and ask you for a quote, or request that we can quote. And also at that point, that's your point to check in that you haven't been dealing with this client direct. So you come back to with a confirmation and a quote of what you are doing, and then we will put together what we call a pricing presentation, which is a number of different options that we present, all anonymous at that phase. It includes like the habitat types you're going to be trading, the price. We also have like scoring for suppliers, so we rate suppliers out of 5. We make that visible to you, by the way. Generally, those are all around credibility, what they're doing for nature, and quality of the units provided, how easy they are to transact with. So obviously, if you've done a number of transactions with you, so a couple of key things there, just so that the supplier knows exactly what you're going to be like to deal with. It isn't one thing I would say. It's not often just about price, basically. Another thing will be when the units will be available, and also some reservation terms. Different habitat banks have different reservation terms. We'll present them. Now at that point, we're normally instructed to then say, I want to go with option A, option 1, or option 2, and we'll reach out to you to confirm the interest and get the deal rolling from there. What can happen is sometimes there's a couple of different options that are similar, and the developer would like us to sort of pursue both options to see whether one might be better than the other. And then we have a one-time only chance for you to rebid and requote, knowing that you've got one other person in the mix. We won't advise either party on what the best price will be. We just give you the opportunity to bid again, and that can be just more than just price. It can be about reservation terms and a number of other factors, but we do that once. You can see some of how that's covered within our ethical policy, and that's it really. I mean, from that point on, we're there to try and advise the client through the transaction and you through the transaction to make sure we're helping to get you to meet in the middle and make it all work seamlessly. Right, next one. This one's a good follow-on actually. Can we deal direct with the client? So the simple answer is yes, just at the right point. So what would normally happen is once we've done our pricing presentations and suggested that you're the right option, we would introduce you to the client. You've got a direct relationship with them. We stay on comms to make sure it all works smoothly. But yes, you're dealing direct with the client from that point. We don't do it before then because it can get confusing. We might be presenting 3 or 4 different options. So, once that client has shown interest in your units, which actually is, why we're here, right? We're here to vet units, market units, and make sure that you're getting proper leads that are going to convert into jobs. That's when we introduce you and post the pricing presentation. We're there saying to them, this is the option. This is the option. Would you like to deal with them direct? How do you ensure you're acting impartially for Habitat Bank? So at Biodiversity Units, we represent like a huge swathe of the market. It's about 85% of the market, I think now. And with that comes a responsibility to sort of manage that all those relationships ethically. So we don't favour one Habitat Bank over the other. We are exactly the same with you as we will be with any other supplier. We do find that often the options that we're presenting to clients, it can be pretty clear based on price or based on availability times or based on, probably primarily location these days, what is the best option. So it is very rare that there are 2 or more options that we're presenting on the table that basically are very similar. But as I've said just before, like we give you the option once. If there are a couple of options that the client wants to pursue, we give you a one-time best and final bid, and we don't share any of that information with the other party, right? We make it clear that, you know, we're just here finding the best price or finding the best deal for that client. But last thing on that is just I would definitely follow up and have a look through the ethical policy so you can see how we talk about that a bit more. Next question, why don't you work exclusively with Habitat Banks? So actually this is a really interesting one. In our very early days we did, and actually we found it wasn't really the right thing to do for the Habitat Bank and for us. Ultimately, we want you to be successful. We want you to sell lots of units, have a thriving, viable business. And we also want to prove that we're the best. And you can't really see if we're the best if you're not able to work with other people. So we're very open to working non-exclusively with you, and it's the same across the board. So, you know, we want you to try other people if you want to try other people. We're confident that we're going to do a great job for you. We just want you to be successful. So, and our model is, you know, and the way B&G works is that, like, we are finding unit deals that are in the main close to you or adjoining to you, and finding those leads for you and vetting those leads for you. We're confident that when we bring you those leads, we'll have been there first, or, you know, very close, and we're going to deliver that service for the client. So, you know, we're very happy working non-exclusively for all of our Habitat Banks. Oh, this one's a tricky one. Well, you know, 5% seems quite high commission compared to other brokers. I guess the answer on that one is, you know, we've modelled out our business, and 5% is the number that we can afford to operate and run a successful business out. What we have found is that whilst in the property market there are some ultra low margin established brands out there doing 1% agents and the like, it just doesn't work in B&G. The volume isn't there yet, and the leads take such a long time. You know, one thing we want to be clear and transparent with you is things can take 4 weeks or they can take a year and a half, and we do regularly do both, and that means a hell of a lot of work. So basically we just need to charge the right margin. It obviously also includes covering all the team, all the marketing, all the spend on that stuff. Everything we do is covered in that, and obviously we only get paid when you get paid. So we know there are people out there that will do it for less, but, you know, ultimately we want to be the best, and to do that we need to charge the right fees. How can you say you have got the largest Habitat Bank supplier network? So, I mean, quite simply, it's true. We basically work with pretty much 85-90% of all the market. There's a couple of partners who we don't work with currently, but in the main we're working with all of the independents, all the mid-sized regionals. We work with Environment Bank, you know, Nattergal, Green Earth Group, right across the board. And the reason we do that is basically B&G is all about finding local nature restoration for the developers' projects, and so we have to have that total coverage. That is ultimately what the developer needs. And so, like, early on we took that decision to sort of have sort of complete coverage, and that will be something we continue to do, because it's the best thing for the developers who are ultimately the clients, but ultimately it should be the best thing for you, because we'll find the right developers close to you that need your units. And the final question is, how do you keep us updated on deals and progress? So actually, this is a really good one. So what we have found in this market is we are contacted at various stages during the project. So we could be contacted ultra early on for budgeting, pre-planning, post-planning. We could also be contacted when someone's desperate to sort of complete on their units and buy them and get them done because they want to start work on site. And so that process can be quite short or quite long. We use a CRM system, which is called Customer Relationship Management Software. And that basically tracks all of the deals, all of our pipeline, where they're all at, and all of the team input in that, adding in all their notes. We can see exactly where every project is. We can see what the likely deals are to convert, who's the favourite option at that stage. All that stuff's contained in the CRM, and basically on a monthly basis we export all that data for you, so you get a report, you're kept in the loop, and you know exactly where you are on all your deals. All those deals are classified as either won, lost, or in progress, and then within in progress you've got an indication of as to whether you're likely to win it, or you know where you stand in the running for that for those projects. And we just find that by doing that on a monthly basis and on automated, you know exactly where you stand and you can see what's happening, because otherwise sometimes you're just sort of left there not knowing, and it's really important for us that we're communicating with you regularly. Okay, I think that's all of the questions covered today, but I hope that's been useful, and do feel that you can reach out and book a call if there's anything else that's on your mind. Thanks.